Hello, everybody. Welcome to a brand new episode of DeRailed Podcast. I'm your host, Michael. This episode's dedicated to all the Vickies out there who got bullied because of Fairly Odd Parents. Yeah, that's who this episode's dedicated to. I feel like there's gotta be like one, at least a couple, at least like their siblings sang the Icky Vicky song to them. There's not a lot of good Vickies in televisions or movies. So if there's any good Vickies out there in films that I'm not aware of, just leave them in the comments below. The only other Vicky I know is the one from Community, and she's a background character who occasionally gets lines, so yeah. Sucks to be a Vicky in this world. There's a lot of Michael characters. It's been a while. It's been a while since I did this podcast. I'm alone, by the way. I would have introduced the guest by now if I had a guest, but I'm alone. I'd kind of like to get Tariq in as a regular for this podcast because me and him argue with each other, and I think that makes the podcast better. I mean, it's not like fucking Baited where it's a glorified screaming competition, basically. But it's more interesting because it's not just me talking for starters, and it's not just a bunch of people agreeing with each other. Found the last episode I did with Nick to be incredibly boring. Luckily, it was only 20 minutes. No offense to Pinsec. Love him like a brother. But we need to talk about something we don't agree on, or it's just not a fun podcast. It's just not a fun podcast. It's not entirely true, though. I mean, I don't know. Something with the last one didn't sit well with me when I was listening back to it, but I released it because I figured maybe some people would be interested. I've recorded a good podcast with Pinsec before. It's just, I guess it just wasn't I don't think either of us were that interested in doing it, but we did it anyway because it was a brand new movie. We were going to do one for The Last Jedi, but really it would have been Nick talking and Nick only talking because Gage normally doesn't say a lot on the podcast, and I have nothing to say about The Last Jedi. It was good. I enjoyed it. It's about as good as any other Disney Star Wars movies. It's not going to be, they're not going to be getting much better than this. They're well made. They're enjoyable to watch. They have good scores. They have nice visuals. They got better acting than the original movies did. I think people react a bit badly to those, but it is what it is. Some people are very passionate about those movies. I'm not, so I guess that's where I'm different. Not really different. There's a lot of people who don't like Star Wars, but I've been watching a lot of Community lately, as referenced earlier by the whole Vicky comment, and that's been enjoyable. That's been very enjoyable. Kind of getting derailed there, bringing up Community. I do have to actually get into today's topic, which is Finding Paradise, and I'm all over the place at the beginning of this episode. Like, I don't know, I don't really have many plans going into this one. I'm going to be doing a full-blown analysis video on Finding Paradise, I shouldn't say not too long from now on. The thing is, it's going to be, really is going to be a full-blown analysis, so I'm, going through it scene by scene and talking about as much as I can for each scene, different things I've noticed playing through it several times. Stuff as specific as just the music selection, because there's some things with the music selection I picked up on. They actually do kind of some of the storytelling just through its music, and it's incredible actually. There's a lot of details in this game, and there's a lot of stuff to talk about, and I'm gonna get kind of obsessive almost for this video, but it's gonna be a good video too. It's not gonna be like me in front of a webcam. It's not gonna be like a piece of shit like that. It's gonna be edited, and it's gonna have the same editing quality as the childhood trauma video. But it's going to be an hour long. An hour long might be exaggeration. It might be closer to 30 to 40 minutes. We'll see when it comes out. But it's going to be a while because I'm currently in the writing process. And I'm very deep into the writing process. But even after I finish writing it, I want to go through To the Moon, the mini-sodes, Bird Story, and Finding Paradise one more time. Just make sure I'm not missing anything. I did play through Finding Paradise several times, and I went back and just watch certain scenes on YouTube over and over again. But I will say with that, Let's Players playing Finding Paradise, if the creator doesn't have an issue, I have no reason to have an issue. And on one hand, I am happy that instead of a couple thousand people, millions of people are enjoying these games because of people like PewDiePie. But I don't know, it feels weird with those because there isn't really much gameplay. It's more of a graphic novel than anything. And I guess it's the same thing with that literature club thing, but I think Let's Plays were very much encouraged with that. I've never actually played or seen gameplay footage of it. I just know it's a story-based game, and it's a big one right now. It's even when Fractured Butthole also came out, I'd say it's mainly for the story, but there's a lot of gameplay, and it makes sense to do a Let's Play of that. Finding Paradise, I feel like if you watch a Let's Play, you basically experience the game. and there's no reason to purchase it. So I feel like they lose money that way. And he deserves money. The first one came out in 2011. This one came out at the end of 2017. He put quality over quantity. He really gave it his all. I'm trying to remember how to say his name right. That's the only reason I keep saying he instead of his name. I think it's Ken Gao. If I'm saying that wrong, or I'm just remembering the name wrong, I apologize. I will get it right in my analysis. I was a huge fan of To the Moon. I played it. I started watching Markiplier play it, but I was like, oh, this is a game I should purchase because it's just story. And the reason I watched Markiplier play it, because he had that, like, I don't watch Markiplier anymore, but I did for a short time period. And it was around the time he had that reaction video to the fan video that they made where they played the cover to The Moon, the song Everything Is Alright. And I thought it was like one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard. And I had to find out what it came from. Then I found To the Moon, and I bought it and played it that night, really just because of the song. It was so good that I was like, there's got to be something to this. And I'm curious and I want to check it out. And then luckily for me, the song doesn't even come close to the best part of To the Moon. To the Moon was genuinely one of those experiences that just I'll never forget. I loved every second of it. I finished it in like I think 3 sittings. Whereas Finding Paradise, which is actually a decent bit longer, I finished in, I think, 2 sit-ins. And it was both on the same night. Yeah, I love it. I love it so much there. It was such a good story, and then I was so excited for Finding Paradise when I heard it was happening. So, I didn't play To the Moon in 2011 when it first came out. I think I played it probably in 2014. I'm pretty sure it was 2014 still. But that was still roughly a little over 3 years of waiting for it. And I was checking his Facebook and website constantly, mainly the Facebook, and I'm actually going to link the Facebook in the description for this video because he updates it not like very frequently, it's not even always monthly, but it's, to me, from my experience, the quickest way to get updates. It's what he updates the most frequently, and it's how I heard about the mini-sodes, it's how I heard about A Bird Story, it's how I saw the little comic he did. It's how I got to see little previews of the music as the game was being made and little screenshots. And I love stuff like that. It's like you're being rewarded for just keeping up with what's going on. And to me, it's just those little gifts that you get occasionally from it make it worth it. Bird Story was the only one that costed money. The mini-sodes are free with To the Moon, and they were both very enjoyable. And I really look forward to another one if we get another one before the third game. I'm sure third game's going to be a long time. I mean, Finding Paradise didn't even get announced until like almost maybe 4 or 5 years after To the Moon. I don't know. So I don't know how long Finding Paradise actually took. He may have just taken a big break or moved on to other projects after To the Moon and then did Finding Paradise. But yeah, Finding Paradise was really good too. I think Finding Paradise is actually better than To the Moon, but I know that's very much debatable. And I don't think comparing the games is that necessary. They're both their own thing. They both take place in the same universe, obviously. They have a lot of the same characters. They even have a lot of references to the Moon. That's actually one of my only gripes with the game, is I think it has too many references to the Moon. But I'll dive into that more in my analysis. But I think overall Finding Paradise just had more well-fleshed out characters, and I don't know, I was just more invested in the story. I think To the Moon, well, maybe To the Moon had the better story. I think Finding Paradise, it was more so just, I liked the music a little more. Visually, they got a little better. I think that Colin, Faye, Sophia, Asher, and Barry is a very small character. But I think, basically, Colin and Faye are more interesting than Johnny and River. And I love Johnny and River. They were great characters, but they mainly were built off sadness. There was happy moments, and that's why the happy moments stood out so much, because a lot of Johnny's life was tragedy, and that's why he wanted his life changed. Colin was a different story, and I won't dive into it too much because I do want to keep it relatively spoiler-free. Colin his life was less sad, though. He didn't have as much tragedy in his life, and because of that, it does make his story less unique than Johnny's. And I would say Faye's story is also less unique than River's. Actually, that might not be true now that I think about it, because Faye actually does. There are some events near the end of the game with Faye that become quite interesting. Johnny's always either sad or happy. I feel like with Colin, you see him angry, you see him depressed, you see him laugh, you see him joking around, you see him as a loving father, you see him as a loving husband, but you see the problems that come with his marriage too. You see a lot. You see a lot with him. I feel like there's a wider variety of emotions, and they're better split up in this game. His childhood is very different from his adulthood. And a lot of the time, what's real and what's not real in his childhood memories is hard to determine, because you'll be walking through the school and you'll see trees growing in the school, and obviously that wasn't happening, that was in his imagination. And I like that they added that detail. He was a very imaginative person. Johnny was very much grounded in reality, Colin was not. And I think because of that, Colin's memories are more interesting to explore and see and visit, and that's the main reason I think I liked Finding Paradise more. I also think he's more relatable just because Johnny's story, makes a more interesting story, makes a more unique story, but it's a lot harder to relate in terms of how specific his dilemma was. And I mean, you can relate in other ways. There's plenty of ways to relate to Johnny and River and To the Moon, but I just think Finding Paradise is gonna connect more to the average person. And at first I thought it would be the other way around, because it feels like what Colin is so worried about isn't relevant at all. And I'm being vague right now, and only people who played the game will understand what I'm saying right now. I don't want to spoil it, but I'm also being vague, so I probably should just stop talking about anything that could be interpreted as a spoiler. But yeah, I'm going to. Fuck it, I'm done talking about that. I'm trying to think of a way to say stuff without spoiling anything, but I can't. I'd have to spoil it. So again, saving that for the analysis. This isn't just going to be a Finding Paradise discussion. It's kind of just the comeback episode. I want to start doing this show consistently again. I mean, this is just kind of the first one. Probably not going to be any longer than 20 minutes, and I'll come back with a better episode later on. I'm working on a lot of stuff right now. I'm working on my first short film for Slateside, and me and my friend have been writing a feature length for a while. It's been on hold for probably a year now, though, the script. We have not gotten together to write it for a long time. We want to. I mean, it's just, I don't know how the hell we're going to make it, but I guess, I don't know. When it comes to making a feature length, you kind of just have to do it and accept that there's going to be a lot of problems when doing it, but just try to make it past those problems. I'm more demotivated to do it now because of a project I did called Across the Fourth Wall, which is supposed to be my third feature-length film, because I did make two that I'm saying they're feature-length, but I mean, they were made when I was one in middle school and the other in high school, and both of them, if you look at them, one of them's not even available anymore. It's completely gone. It's completely destroyed. And then the other one is on YouTube, but it's garbage, and it was made in 4 months. So it hardly qualifies, but I don't know. I had a lot of actors in it. I did spend 4 months non-stop on it. Like, I stopped doing schoolwork for it because I did not care about school. Yeah, I did my third feature length, which is Across the Fourth Wall, and we didn't even get half of it done, and I started releasing it as episodes instead of a movie because I was sick of putting everything on hiatus for it, so I wanted to start releasing stuff again, and then we didn't even release more than 3 episodes, and I kept 2 of the episodes up and took the third one down because I thought the third one was just the cringiest thing I ever made. So, yeah, that one didn't work out too well. So I'm a little shut off from trying another feature length for a while, but I don't know. It has to be a story I really want to tell, and this film is a comedy, and I think it's a really funny comedy. My only issue is it really worth killing myself over. And I mean, maybe it is. I mean, if I can get the right help, it would be. I think Across the Fourth Wall was a lot of me trying to put something together without taking the proper precautions prior to make it, done well. We've been talking about a lot of short films ever since we started Slateside, and a lot of it just comes from a lack of communication, a lack of being able to get enough people to want to put it together. So really, if I want to do it, I just have to take full control over it, and if someone in my crew comes up to me with a fully written out script, or at least an outline for a script that I can help him or her write, then absolutely, I would love to make it then. I just can't rely or wait on someone else's script anymore, because that was a big thing when starting this channel, was that we were going to do a friend's film first. And I'm not calling this person out. I won't say the person's name, but even if I did, I'm not angry about that. I don't think that's a bad thing. They just had other things that they prioritized over, and that's not a bad thing. I mean, really in this group, the only 2 people who are looking to get into film is me and Tariq. And this friend of ours, who's still involved in the channel and still going to be in stuff, I think at least, had a little film that he was working on, and I was going to help him make it, obviously. And just, it was a lot of time of waiting to see, where's this going? I tried to help, and the person constantly wanted to change what he was doing. We would get somewhere, and then we'd go 8 steps back, and Yeah, I can't do that anymore. I started writing a short with a friend of mine, Chris Bonite. I'll also link his channel. Very talented guy. Edits for a lot of people now, but still gives me his time to help me work on stuff. Such a genuine, sweet guy, and we're working on a short film together, and I'm also going to have Tariq look at it as a script supervisor if he's down for that. Because I really like it so far. I think it's a nice little short. I think it'll be relatively easy to film. I think it's funny, and I think that it gives us the opportunity to do a couple of unique things with filmmaking, so I'm looking forward to that. I'm also possibly working on my next mini-series for YouTube, but that'll go on my other channel, Bemis & Company. It won't make sense to go on this channel with the context, but I'm only doing if the people I'm sending the scripts to want to do it. I want to do it. I think it's awesome, but we'll see if they want to do it, because I can't do it on my own. What else is there? So I'm kind of rambling at this point. Is there anything else to talk about? Yeah, I mean, I played Fractured Butthole recently, and I really enjoyed it, but, it's a broken game. It's not finished. It's fun. It's very funny, but they add a lot of padding into the game. A lot of quests where you're just walking back and forth to different houses. The side quests normally end up being part of the main story, even though they're supposed to be side quests. Like, they're listed as side quests if you check, like, walkthroughs, but you kind of have to do them to progress in the story, like the whole gay fish side quest that I wasn't able to do anything else until I finished that, so it's not really a side quest then. It's just a part of the main story that doesn't really connect to anything. It makes you do it. So again, like I think in Stick of Truth, every single side quest, none of them were needed. And I enjoy the side quests. I want to do the side quests, but I don't want them to be like forced, because then every other side quest that isn't forced to continue with the story, all of those are like, go look for these things, go collect this item, and there's not even like a cutscene to go with it, so it feels very underwhelming. It's buggy as hell. I had to restart the game so many times. Sometimes the screen would go black, and I'm playing this on an Xbox One, by the way. Sometimes the screen would go black. Sometimes I would be trying to use one of the special moves. Twice this happened, where I tried to use the Craig and Tweak attack, and what will happen is Craig, like, they'll get ready, then Tweak will walk right past Craig, and then the game will just freeze. The combat I like in this game, but I swear to God, some of the bosses, it drags on so much, because really what you're doing is you find a formula that works and you're sticking with it throughout the whole fight, so you can win, and you can't switch your characters out or anything. So yeah, once you pick a team, you're kind of stuck with them. So basically I find out how I'm going to beat this boss, but sometimes their health is up so high that it's not so much that it's hard, but it's time consuming. Like the final battle with Kyle's cousin, I figured out pretty early on what I need to do to beat him, and I'm just redoing the same things over and over, and it's going on forever because his health is so high. So then to have the freaking game freeze on me after 20 minutes of that, and then have to go back, that's not fun. That's frustrating. There's nothing entertaining about that. It's just irritating. It is goddamn irritating to have to go back like that. I hate that. So there's some of the bugs are just not little nitpicks. Some of them are absolutely unacceptable. I think that the lip sync being off, though, is more than just a nitpick, because it's South Park. Come on. I understand that, game development, I know nothing about it, and maybe I shouldn't speak, but like, I've seen games that use, actual 3D rendering graphics where the lip sync is a lot better than it was in certain parts of the South Park game. And that just doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem right. With South Park, I feel like it should be the easiest thing ever to make the lip sync work. It's buggy. It's really buggy. There's lip sync issues. Like I said, tons of glitches that just made the game unplayable, where I'd have to reset it. The one thing that they did improve with the combat that I realized too, the one thing I do appreciate, is that if you take longer than 2 seconds to decide what you're going to do, you don't have the characters constantly bickering at you in this one. They do bicker at you, but that's more like after 10 or 20 seconds of not making up your mind, which sometimes I even need that extra time, because I'm trying to figure out, okay, what the fuck am I doing in this boss battle when I first start the boss battle? But yeah, I feel like Stick of Truth's a better game. It's more consistently a better game, and the story ran on a 3-act structure, while Fractured Butthole is all over the place. But it's funny. I do like the change in combat. I do like all the new characters. I do like all the different move sets. I did have a really good time playing the game, and I do think it's a good game. I think Stick of Truth is a lot better just as a whole. And I don't think Fractured Butthole would be worth playing a second time because I don't think that there's enough to do around the town. And I don't think the buddy abilities are any fun to play with or use to explore. I think that they're more inconvenient than anything, especially since there's like a cutscene. It's not immediate. You have to watch. It's very brief, but you do have to watch something every single time you want to use it. Where in Stick of Truth, you could just use the attacks immediately, like the gnome dust to shrink yourself or the alien probe to transport to some other place. Well, in this one, their version of the alien probe is Kyle as the human kite, but you have to watch a little cutscene every single time you want to use it. So that gets tedious really quick. It's just little things like that. There's a lot of them in this game, though. There's a lot of problems. There's a lot of things wrong with it. And I think that they nailed it the first time in this one. They just tried so many things and bless them for that, but it didn't work out in so many areas. The most important part, though, is it is a funny game. I enjoyed every single minute of the cutscenes and the story. But yeah, gameplay-wise, there's just a big list of mistakes where I don't think I had any with the first game. And they do improve some things. I do think the combat is more fun in this game. It'd probably like a 5 or 6 out of 10 for me. A 10 out of 10 for 9 out of 10 for writing and comedy, but gameplay, like I said, ton of problems. Okay, so I know this was supposed to be a Find Paradise podcast. I'm naming it after that because it's what I open with, and I think it's what I spend the most time on. And just to say kind of like I'm going to be doing a full video on it. I really love the game. I just don't want to spend too much time on it here because I'm going to be doing a full video on it. I just kind of wanted to acknowledge its existence and tell people to buy it. One more thing I'll link for this video is I'll link To the Moon and Find Paradise on Steam. Because you should check those out. You should purchase them. You should give him your money so he can continue making stuff because Ken Gao is one of the most talented people I've ever come across. He makes wonderful music for his games. He tells wonderful stories with them. He has great characters. I know the artwork is done by a lot of different people, but he still develops the games very well, and I think he does a lot of the artwork himself. There's a lot of people to praise for both of the games, but he's the madman behind them, so check out his stuff. Link in his Facebook, link in my friend's Chris' YouTube page, and the 2 Steam pages, and that'll be it. So, a bit of a ramble episode all over the place, but I hope you enjoyed it anyway. I'm going to try to get back to doing this. I'm going to try to do most of the episodes with other people from now on, and we'll see what there is to talk about. We'll be doing some new movies, we'll be doing some old movies, some TV shows, yada, 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 all this good stuff. I really regret missing stuff like BoJack Horseman or Rick and Morty Season 3. There was a lot of different things I wanted to talk about, but just I wasn't doing the podcast at the time. I didn't have the time, and now I think it's a little too late to talk about those things while trying to make it relevant. Even Finding Paradise is pretty dated at this point. It's over a month old, but hopefully you enjoyed anyway, and hopefully I can actually be on time with this shit. I'm so fucking burpy ending this episode. Have a good day, night, or whatever time you're listening to this podcast. Jesus Christ.